Welcome back, everybody. What a day. Look at this. This is interesting. Every now and then you come across big red pine plantations up here. Everybody kind of has their own thing in the areas they live in. But here was interesting because they threw white pines in here. So like, these three are white pines, the darker green ones. But look how they grew. They grew right along with the red pine. You can see the dark green one there, here. Look at that. There ain't even a hurdle. Let's look at them. Look at that one over there, right there. You know, a stinking limb on the whole thing. Right up to nothing. Back there, you can see the green colored ones. Just beautiful poles. And you don't see that a lot in the white pine. What you normally have in the white pine, which what we're used to, is stuff like that white pine there. Okay. And that one there isn't too bad. That one that cut down right here, that big one there, that's an ugly stinker. We're used to those. Even in white pine plantations, they don't grow this good. But like, they threw some whites in with this red, and they just grew beautiful. Just like a red. It was pretty interesting. We don't see this all the time, because normal red pine plantations just have red pine. But they threw some whites when they were planting these. And that one there, hardly a limb on all the way to the top. So anyway, somebody else is coming in and they're gonna process all these red pines. So that's why we got them down out of the way. We're not gonna do it, somebody else is. So, yeah, just interesting. Every job's different. A little different scenario, and you walk over here, so they really couldn't make the landing any bigger. The prop line's over there, and then this drops. It's hard to tell, but it drops straight off. So, anywho, man, there's a nice white pine back there on the back side of that red. Huge. They always, these here will probably be better than all this timber up here. I guarantee it. Because it's on that side hill. Oh, japers, the poles. Imagine that the guys running processors just dream about cutting that stuff. Anywho, today, I got a comment here about a week ago. We made this whole landing. This landing is way too small. And for some reason, we had way more equipment on here than we're used to. We had 2 skidders, 1 skidder operator, had 2 feller bunchers. We had a track machine and a wheeled buncher here with 1 operator. And then we had the dozer here. And so it was like, you have everything here and there's not room to park anything. And we don't want to cut down no more red pines than we have to, because we're not doing that. So, and honestly, we're running out of places to put them because you keep stacking them up. Now you have to, if you go wider, you got to shove all these back in the woods, and it just gets ugly for everybody. So you just kind of we had to do, and it was pure sand. We didn't have any rain when we moved in here, and I had the Ford stock. We had the other Ford stock, just pickups will get buried in here. It's just like powder. Since then, we've got a bunch of rain, but you're still dealing with pure sand. So our option is to get mats in here. Now, we had a bunch of mats at the shop, went through, and what we did was we bought mats that were already previously used. We got a great deal on them. So we got a bunch of those, and they work good for us. Across the stuff, going through low ground, wet ground. But then the more times you do that, the more abused they get. They're already kind of wore out. So they just get worse and worse and worse, and eventually end up with a pile of junk ones. So we were short. We put all the pads in to get the chipper in. So the chipper is actually sitting on crane mats. The slasher, of course, is not. I don't get that luxury. So I'm not that high up as Josh is over there. He's doing 9s right now. So we had to get more mats. And we got enough mats to go from there all the way back around so the log truck could back in. And these were a game changer. And videos by Al said that too. He said, you'll really appreciate it, because if it gets ugly, you're already set up and trucks could just keep rolling. So we haven't had to pull any trucks and hadn't had to push any trucks out. If we were dealing with that sand, it would have been horribly ugly. And truckers had to back in off the road and trying to pull them, and it gets super ugly when you got to pull trucks backwards, and especially off the road, and they can't see. And poor truckers are always trying to compensate for the trailer, and the skidder's pulling it. And the skidder can pull a trailer right around no problem. But when a trucker's trying to compensate for it, it gets really screwed up. If you got to pull them straight back, it's not too bad. If you got to pull them back and turn, it can get really ugly, and it's not a trucker's fault. They're used to trying to compensate for the trailer. When you have it to a skidder pulling, this is going to go where the skidder's going to go. And so then you get into a big ugly mess. But luckily, on this job, they're able to, everything's backed right in and drove right out. So it's been really nice. It was a game changer because we would still have a lot more wood here left had we not done that, because the loads would have gone slower going out. So you'd end up with less loads a day, and then you end up with more broke down stuff, and then you end up with being here longer. So we had to order another load of mats, and somebody asked a question, how are the mats made? And that's one thing that it's always interesting, because I never know the questions you'll get. So I was going to show you how these are made. These are white oak mats. We were going to try to sell some white oak, but they're full of white oak. So all these are white oak mats. They are, I believe, 8 inches thick. They are 4 feet wide by 16. So these are all new, and then you come into this one, and you can tell that's a previously used one, and it's kind of janked up, busted up. And I had it sitting over there when I put these mats in with a slasher, so I threw it in there because we could use it. But that kind of gives you the idea of kind of the shape it's in. And so a lot of them are dry rotting, and they're getting ugly and junk. So you start doing that, and then they just get busted up. So we needed some new ones, so we got new ones anyways. But somebody asked the question how they're made. So if you look, some of them are 4. Like right here, this is a little bad spot. So there's 4 chunks of wood in this one. Then a lot of them have 5. This one here is 5. What you have is a rod right there, and that's got like a welded on flat piece of steel. And then when you come over to the other side, that rod's got a threads on it, and they just got a nut in there, tightened up. So there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 of those in each one that hold them all together. So it's just pretty simple, but I guess if you've never seen them before, you wouldn't quite, it'd be interesting to learn. So there's all different kinds of mats. There's different thicknesses of mats or different lengths of mats. There's truck mats, and then there's mats like these for like more of like a heavy equipment, bridge mats, and stuff like that. So we've built many bridges with the other mats that we had, getting across wet holes, stuff like that, for truck roads, for skid roads, all that type of stuff. They come in real handy. So it looks like tomorrow we'll possibly be done, and then we got to get all our equipment moved, and then I'll probably then you have to pick up all the mats. So you got to get all this wood out of here, you got to get all that wood out of here, and then we can start stacking mats and try to stack them by the edge of the road and go from there. But so that's what happens when you're moving. It takes a little bit longer, but it saves you in the long run trying to get trucks in and out. And that's what they're used for. If you got to do it in the sand, I don't know. The log truck is the heaviest thing that we have. So we did a bunch of aspen here, which would have been a lighter load than you say a hardwood load. But it wouldn't have been, I don't think we would have got it out of here. Even with the dozer and everything, this sand was horrible. So it's just not, it wouldn't have been a good situation if we didn't put the mats down. So that was the point of the mats. But that's how they're made, and that other one's made the very exact same way. The problem is when they get wore out, here's another little thing, like they start breaking apart right here. That rod, another problem you have is that rod will poke up, and then there's one over by the chipper that's junk. That rod will poke up, and then it'll stick out, and then you have a big old rod sticking out. And that can pop your tires on your trucks. So once they get to that point, we just kind of have to make them disappear. But that's kind of how it works out there. You can see your rod there. It's pretty simple, but they don't give them away. That's the biggest problem. You get charged for them. But when you need them, if you have them or can get your hands on them, that's the way to go. So we should have a moving video coming up when we're going to get out of here, start moving stuff out. I cut all these today. There's not quite a load there. And then we'll be switching to hardwood tomorrow. I was just talking to him, and all we got is hardwood left, and there is, see what we call that one? How Randall used to work here. You see that oak right there? He used to call that an elf's foot. And they can't go through the chipper because it's got that horn on there. Anyways, that's a small log, but I'd actually cut that horn off before I cut a log out of it, because you don't want that on there. The boys at the mill don't like that. It's not really that great. I've cut a couple of them off. So there's a little more logs than that. The good point is these 8-foot aspen and the 8-foot hardwood go to the same mill, so you can throw them on the same truck. I had the other question, that how long were the logs at? And the 8-foot's 100 inches. So that's kind of that. I got tape measures up in the cab of the slasher, so I can go through and check my measurements every now and then, check my logs, make sure they're the right length, try to keep the mill happy. I had some short logs here a month ago. I got a short log call. So try to do better. I mean, it can happen. That's fine right now. Your saw table, you get on different jobs, your saw table's angled different ways as far as like this. And that's where you get into trouble. If you're on a slight hill going downhill, when you butt your butts up, they can slide back a little bit. And if you're not careful, you do that a couple times, and you end up with like 7.5-foot logs. And then they have to sell them as a 7-foot timber instead of an 8-foot, and then obviously the mill's losing money if they're paying for an 8-foot log and you're giving them a 7.5. You don't want that. So anyways, this job here has been fine. It's kind of been a little more difficult because, as you can tell, that back there, I hope you like my low pointer stick, that back there is higher than my saw table. So you just have to kind of be careful about stuff pinching. And what I do is when I butt logs up to that, I drop that butt plate down just a little bit, and that helps with the pinching, because it's able to let the logs fall back a little bit as it's getting cut, which is still 100 inches, but it's just giving it a little space to fall. So always compensating. It's always interesting pulling the slasher in somewhere and your different height levels of if it's angled different ways, as far as like this, and then how this back here, because all your tops are way back here, if going to cause pinching in the saw, and so you're always battling that. You're not battling, it's just something you always have to think about. So anyways, I'll wrap her up. That's about it, guys. That's the crane mat. Somebody asked about the crane mat, somebody asked about the log length. So, and that's at this length, that's what we load them on a log truck at in the wonderful state of Michigan. 8 foot is a standard length in the state of Michigan, and everybody down south in other states look at us like we're all weird, but if you drive the roads here, I'm telling you, I'll tell you what, I'm on the roads, and it's funny because you guys comment about our log truck and how it's different, and the self-loader 8-foot logs, you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning with me and run out to the woods. The first semis you see on the road in the mornings around here are all log trucks. And they're all the exact same built as ours, and they're all hauling the exact same wood as us. So it's just different states, different rules, different regulations, and different mills. Whatever the mill wants, that's what we give them. So anyways, thanks for watching. hopefully you enjoyed the little crane mat video and them beautiful white pines. A little row of them right there. Just keep rolling.